Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Our top story today, drivers caught using their phone behind the wheel will now face tougher punishments. Fines in England, Wales and Scotland will double to £200 and offenders will get 6 points on their licence. And it means newly qualified drivers with less than 2 years on the road face losing their licence altogether if they're caught sending a text or speaking on the phone. Our correspondent Robert Hall joined one police patrol in Cambridgeshire as it stopped offenders.
On a busy main road in Cambridgeshire, police cameras capture another offender. The evidence from around the UK is crystal clear. We've been warned, but we simply aren't listening. The most recent report from the RAC found 31% of drivers admit to using a handheld phone at the wheel, compared with 8% 2 years ago.
She had it held in both hands, sort of texting or doing whatever with both thumbs.
Can you just follow me, please?
This driver was spotted holding her phone to plot a route.
You had your phone in both hands on top of your steering wheel. You may or may not be aware it is going to change. 6 points, £200 fine and no option of any sort of education course at all. It's just how she was using her phone that makes it an offence. It's more than just making a phone call.
Further up the road, a 2-minute call will have serious consequences for this HGV driver.
You were on your mobile phone. You are aware that's an offence?
In the 20-odd years I've been on the road, I've seen people with laptops, I've seen phone in one hand, laptop on the other, knee on the steering wheel, and that, what just happened there, minor indiscretion in relation to the scale of things, but no, I should know better.
There'd been an accident.
Unfortunately, your mum's been killed.
Police operations will now run alongside a media campaign centred on the family of one victim. Higher penalties are only part of the answer. In the end, we must all be conscious of the lives we put at risk.
There's nothing that is so important it cannot wait. Don't use your phone whilst you're driving.
Robert Hall, BBC News, Cambridgeshire.
Well, almost all of us have done it at some point, let's be honest. Is this increase in the punishments enough to stop you doing it ever again? We're going to talk to Meg Williamson later on. Her story is absolutely devastating. She met the man who killed her boyfriend. The man was using his phone. In fact, he was having an argument with his ex-girlfriend and he went through the central reservation, head-on into her boyfriend's car as he was driving to work for a night shift on a Saturday night. Please do listen to Meg. That's at about 10:15. That is enough to make you stop ever using a phone again, I promise you. Some messages from you on this. Bear with me 1 second. Sorry. My wife and 2 sons were killed by a motorist using his mobile phone back in 2002. It's rare, but it does happen. Loads of comments on driving and the tougher punishments that come in today if you're caught using a mobile phone. Jean says, who the hell do you think you are, this is to me, when you say, come on, almost all of us have used handheld mobile phones while driving at some point. Adrienne says, I don't think the new penalties go far enough. We ban drink drivers because drink driving kills and maims innocent road users. Why treat the victims of mobile phone using drivers any differently? Their capacity for causing death and mayhem is just the same as that of people who drink and drive. They should face the same penalties. Ban them automatically. Wayne says, I think it doesn't go far enough either. How about 9 points and a £2.5 grand fine to be paid within 30 days to stamp out this selfish action? John reckons he sees 3 to 4 mobiles being used in cars every day round here. I haven't seen a police officer in the last 2 years, either on foot or in a car. The correlation is obvious. No point whatsoever in having laws, however draconian, if you don't enforce them. More government sticking plaster, I'm sorry to say. And Andy says, I think the penalties are being aimed in the wrong direction. It's not just their vehicle they're using irresponsibly, it's also their phone. So instead of points on their licence, take their phone from them. Half of these idiots would rather lose their driving licence than lose their mobile phone. There should be some system in place which bans them from having a phone for 6 months. Thank you for those. Keep them coming in. Right, penalties for driving while holding a mobile phone to text or call will be doubled from today in England, Scotland and Wales. The fine will increase from £100 to £200, and instead of 3 penalty points on your licence, you'll get 6. And if you're a young driver with less than 2 years on the road, you will lose your licence completely. Lose it. Tell us if you think those increased penalties go far enough. Meg Williamson is a 27-year-old teacher. Last June, her boyfriend, Gavin Roberts, was driving to work on the motorway when he was hit head-on by another car. The driver was 24-year-old Lewis Stratford, who was on his mobile, having an argument with his ex as he drove to her house. Mr. Roberts died 4 days after the accident. Meg Williamson asked to meet the man who killed her boyfriend. He agreed. BBC's Inside Out South was there to capture their conversation.
The consultant took the family into the room and told them that there was nothing that they could do. And I just remember my legs completely giving in. I remember my mum grabbing hold of me and walking me through the intensive care unit. And it genuinely felt like a dream. It felt like I was watching it happen to somebody else.
I know while I was on my phone, I was making the calls to my girlfriend at the time. I was scared of losing her. And yeah, they were emotional calls, they were shouting calls, high emotional calls, raging calls that shouldn't have been made that night. And I've got to live with that forever and ever and ever and ever. I know I've caused a lot of pain for a lot of people. For something that could have waited till the next day, I know that. I know what I've done, I know the lives I've ruined, yeah. I've ruined a lot of people's lives, happiness. And I deserve everything I get from whatever comes now. Hate, anger. I know I am sorry, but I can't keep saying sorry because I know people don't want to hear it. You can only just, sorry's not going to make things better, I know. Ever.
What were you arguing with the ex-girlfriend about?
She was due to come up to me on the Friday night, but she said no, and then we was arguing all day Saturday. We were going to leave it till the Sunday, so I'd go down on Sunday morning. But I got on a Saturday night, and I just drove down angrily. No one thinks it happens to them, and it shouldn't take something like this for them to think, oh, let's stop using the phone. People should know before. I learned the hard way, but it shouldn't have to be this way.
What would you say to somebody who's going to pick up their phone behind the wheel today without even thinking about it?
Don't do it, because picking up a phone, no matter how nice you are, how good you are, this accidents like this going to happen to anyone on the road by using a phone. Something I've got to learn for, something I've got to pay a price for, and I will learn from it. Are you angry at me?
A little bit.
Yeah.
But then so many people do it. So many people. That it was a stupid mistake. I don't want to hate you forever. I'm not that type of person. And eventually I'll probably be able to forgive you. But I just needed some questions answering first.
To be honest, I expected the hate and abuse. I don't know what you're like, I don't know. I expect it from anyone that see me on the street. If they want to have a go, then I'd listen to it and I'd accept anything that people have got to say. Like, I was scared to meet you.
Thank you for agreeing to meet me and answering my questions. I know it's been hard.
Wow. I mean, wow. Lewis Stratford pleaded guilty to death by dangerous driving and is due to be sentenced this Friday, where he's been told to expect a hefty jail sentence. And Meg, as you can see, is here. Good morning.
Good morning.
That was astonishing. What was it like for you?
The initial meeting, even just before I walked in the door, I was very, very anxious, mostly because I didn't know kind of how my emotions were going to come out. I didn't know how Lewis was going to react to me, and really just making sure that I could get some questions answered. So it was difficult because I didn't want to put any more blame onto him than he was already feeling himself. But my main focus really was just thinking, how else can I prevent anybody else having to go through this?
Why was it important for you to hear the answer to the questions you had from the man who was responsible for the death of your boyfriend?
I think because at the beginning, when I was originally with Gavin in the hospital, I had a lot of anger and I had a lot of ifs and buts and questioned myself. And then as time went on and as I started to realise actually Lewis is a real person, it could have been anybody behind that wheel picking up their phone. And so it was important for me to actually hear from Lewis how it had impacted his life as well as mine and Gavin's families and friends.
Let's talk about that night. Gavin was on his way to work. It was a night shift he was going to, wasn't it, on a Saturday night?
Yeah, he was going to one of his last night shifts. He was working on the electrification of the railway, something that he was so happy to be part of, and he was so passionate about his job. And we just had dinner with my parents the previous night, the first time they'd met him. Really? And then Saturday evening came, he went off to work, and I didn't think anything of not hearing from him because I assumed he'd gone out on track. And then it wasn't until the Sunday morning when I got that phone call to say that he'd not made it to work, that he'd been in an accident, that reality kind of hit hard.
What happened when you got to the hospital? What did they say to you?
They let me in straight away to go and see him. I sat with him, talked to him, and they said that he'd been responsive for some time coming to the hospital, but the pressure in his brain had been building, so they wanted to take him down, do a scan, and then they put a stint in to try and relieve the pressure, but unfortunately it wasn't successful, and so then we were told we needed to wait for a miracle. It was very hard.
Yeah. What did you say to him?
I held his hand as best I could because it was bandaged up and there was lots of tubes in the way, and I just said to him not to be scared. I begged him to wake up. I told him I'd swap places with him, talked about the plans that we had and the holidays and the memories we wanted to make, but time just kept ticking by and there was just nothing that we could do. It was very hard.
Yeah. Do you think Lewis understood what he'd done?
Yeah, I think he did. He was very compassionate. He spoke to me very openly about how he felt and how he didn't want the sorrow and he didn't want people to feel sorry for him because he knew that sorry wasn't enough because it would never bring Gavin back. But then the compassion in me, he has to live with this for the rest of his life. We can grieve and we can remember Gavin positively and hopefully carry on a legacy of changing people's views of using their mobiles behind the wheel. But Lewis is always going to have to remember what he did on that night.
When he asked you, are you angry with me? You said, a little bit. A little bit.
A little bit, because it had worn off. The anger had worn off. I'd come to realise that he was a real person and, it could have been me, it could have been my sisters, it could have been any other friends or family that were either in Gavin's position or in his position. And so as I started to understand Lewis's side and how he was so emotionally charged by the conversation, I guess, I started to understand that he knew he'd done wrong and he was willing to accept the blame.
What's really striking is that you said you don't want to hate him because you're not that sort of person. Because hate can be a very destructive emotion, can't it?
Yeah, it would break me apart and probably make him feel even worse if I just did continue to hate him. He's told me he is sorry for what he's done, and he has said, you know, he's willing to accept the penalty and the consequences of his action. And to me, if I can just start making changes, then, you know, Lewis was part of the programme that we made, and so ultimately people are going to be aware of what we've done, and hopefully that will be a deterrent for them, so it will start to make the changes for people.
He is now preparing, Lewis Stratford is now preparing to go to jail.
He is, yeah, and he's told me that he's scared, but, you know, he's willing to accept it, and so as part of, I guess, his coping mechanism, he has looked at what he needs to do, and speaking to me helped him.
Yeah. Well, let me read some comments from people who are reacting to your meeting with Lewis Stratford, and also the fact that the penalties are increasing today. I'll ask you about those in a minute. Steve says, this man deserves some credit. That was probably the hardest thing he's ever done. He knows he was wrong and he accepts it. This texter says, I think this public victimisation of the lad that used his phone while driving is a bit sick. People don't concentrate 100% while driving all the time. It's natural. I think the difference with Lewis Stratford was that actually he was having a full-on argument with his ex-girlfriend on the phone, very emotionally charged, and driving angrily towards her home, you know, which is not just a little bit distracting, it led to that.
Yeah, and I mean, somebody that said that we're victimising him, it's not been like that at all. You know, he
It certainly
agreed,
didn't come across like that at all.
He agreed to do it, and as part of his closure, I guess, and understanding of how I was feeling, it was something that he wanted to work with as well, to deter others from picking up their phones, to stop them from being distracted, whether it is an emotionally charged conversation or just picking up that phone and moving it to the other side of the car. That can be, you know, the difference between getting to the end of your journey and somebody else getting to the end of theirs or not.
What do you think about the increase in the sanctions now? 6 points on your licence, increasing the fine from £100 to £200, or if you're somebody who's only been driving for 2 years, you lose your licence. Is that enough?
I'm emotionally charged by this because of how wrapped up in Gavin's event that I am. I don't think it's enough. I think it should be increased. You know, £200 is not a lot of money to some people if they can afford to have a car and if they can afford to have a phone. So I personally would like to see some sort of deterrent, some sort of mobile phone awareness, so that people realise the impact that it can have, because we are desensitised to picking up that phone behind the wheel. And, you know, across Europe they have graphic TV advertisements for people to make them realise what using their phone behind the wheel can do. So I think maybe increasing it even to £1,000 with those 6 points and some sort of ban or driving awareness course will be more beneficial. But it's about re-educating people. We know it's illegal. We know that we shouldn't be doing it. And yet most of society have probably done it at some point.
Although I suggested that earlier, and actually one woman was cross with me for saying, I said it, you know, almost all of us at some point have done it. She said, actually, we haven't. You know, some of us are pretty sensible. So that's fair enough. This viewer says new penalties for driving with a phone are still too small. If we drive a car, then the financial penalty needs to be around £1,000, and the points should go simply to the maximum 12 straight away. Thank you very much for talking to us, Meg. Thank you. Really appreciate your time. Thank you. And the work you're doing.